The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, baby. We are back. I'm Rob. He's Ryan. How's it going?
Here we go again. Here we go again. Did we overreact? Were we on point? Where are we right now?
Well, I think that's where we're going to start tonight. I mean, you look at the last 4 games, all against like tough opponents. They take 7 of 8 points. 2 of those games were really nice wins over the Boston Bruins in what was, in my opinion, the best outing of the season on Hockey Night in Canada, followed by a nice sort of resilient win in Carolina with travel.
I could make the argument that win was better than the Boston one because it's the second game of back-to-back, and that's just every time they go to Carolina, they just suck, period. So the fact that they went down early and then found a way to just kind of stay in the game and win, that to me, that was the most impressive win of the year.
Don't forget Eric Shalgren in the net as well
exactly.
for that game.
So that you know what, two absolutely massive W's.
So
big old W's on the weekend.
You asked the question right off the bat, so let's get into it. Let's ask it. Let's discuss it. Did we and certain other members of Leafs Nation overreact to the start of the season?
We asked that question to ourselves when we were together, and I went back and forth on it. It was at first I was like, I did overreact. I did. It was early. They didn't play great. But you know what? It is early. Like, I get it. I get it now. I understand. It's always the easy thing to say that it's early. I feel like a lot of sports fans almost use that as like a crutch, as a way to speak about their team earlier in the season when people are overreacting. But I mean, and then you look at the past couple games and they've leveled out. So in a way, I felt like I was overreacting, but at the same time, I don't think I was overreacting to the point that I thought they were just like weren't a playoff team or they weren't competitive. I think me and you were overreacting in terms of watching this team come out and just not show up and just give that effort that we're used to seeing. That's brutal. I think that's what we were overreacting to. I don't think we ever thought this team was a bad team or not a playoff team or not a competitive team. It was just coming fresh off another Game 7 loss, starting the season and the way they started it in terms of the effort they put in some of those early games. That kind of led to a harsh reaction on my part, for sure.
Last week, I talked about the 2 sides of the fan base. And there's definitely like 2 opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to this team. There's the I hate everybody, trade everybody, I hate Kyle Dubas, I hate everything about him crowd. And then there's the relaxed, they're fantastic, Kyle Dubas is a genius, you're overreacting, you're stupid crowd. And the answer, as I continue to say, is somewhere in the middle. And I think when they started the season the way they did, when you compound that with the playoff disappointments and how we all feel in April of every year or May, whenever it is, when they lose in the first round in a Game 7, I think there's a carryover effect. And I think your point about the effort is well made. One narrative that I want to put to bed is how awful the Toronto fans and Toronto media and they are and how harsh they can be. I think that is like, listen, there's the media here is tough to deal with because there's so much of them. And you have 2 like idiots like you and me who I guess in a certain way you can say we're a part of the media.
Yeah.
Because we cover this team and we come on and we give strong opinions and we'll say negative things about guys who we don't feel have played that well. But you know what? There was a moment during the Boston game where the crowd in that building stood on their feet and cheered multiple times because of how hard this team was working. Had they not, let's just say Boston came back and won that game on Saturday, I don't think anyone in that building would have left angry. I think everyone would have been like, these guys left it all out there. And that's all that this market and this fan base asks. And so I think that's why at the beginning of the season, the reaction is so volatile and it's so over the top and it's so, I guess, dramatic, because it's just all we're asking for is for you to leave it all out there. And when we feel like we don't see that, we get upset.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think it also helped that they were playing the Boston Bruins. I mean, just any time that team comes in this barn and you give them a game and you end up winning the game, that's kind of what brings a fan base together in a way. There's a lot of teams that I watch the Leafs play that I'm just like, even Vegas, just not really 100% invested in this. But when you watch them play the Bruins and they go out and play like that, that's what kind of brings you back. And that's why all us idiots who cheer for this team every year get sucked back in with an effort like that.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have said it better.
And as I said, to anyone who's watching and going, relax. You and I get that all the time. And it's like, no, we're just,
what are we going to talk about if we're on here once a week, twice a week, and we're relaxed? Like,
and that's the fun. And that's what I understand. Like, that's like, shut up. The people who do that, like, do you want that? Like, do you want two guys who just come on here and it's all sunshine and rainbows?
We wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't have a show if we did that.
And you and I, we come on here, and if they play well, we say they play well. Like, listen, man, 7 of 8 points in this run right now is pretty good. And they're starting to come
good.
Yeah, especially when both of your goalies are injured.
Yeah.
And they're starting to come on. Matthews is looking more like Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner in the Vegas game looked like return to form for Mitch Marner. You hope he makes a couple of plays like the goal that he scored and then setting up Timothy Liljegren. Like, that's the kind of stuff that hopefully you hope gets him going. There's positives happening here. There's definitely positives. So it's like, we're just going to kind of go with the flow here.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things I want to hone in on with you. And the first one is Timothy Liljegren, okay? 2 goals against the Vegas Golden Knights. He's a really interesting story because here's a guy who was drafted in the first round who spent a lot of time developing in the American Hockey League. And anyone who knows anything about like drafting or developing and scouting, a lot of people will tell you that like guys need a long time to marinate in the AHL, especially defensemen. How many young defensemen have you seen? Rasmus Sandin in the Vegas game as well, just like brutal, like giveaway. Like Rasmus Sandin, not to get off on a tangent because we're talking about Timothy Liljegren, but Rasmus Sandin is a guy whose ceiling is so high, but you see him still developing, right? Whereas like Liljegren, he's really turned into a nice 4th or 5th defenseman on your hockey team. Because you were on here last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever it was talking about like how brutal this defensive core looks.
Oh, they just don't have a lot of talent.
No, but having him in there, and he's not coming in. He's not a guy that's going to come in and take your defense to like a whole new level.
Yeah.
But he is a guy who at this point in his career is an NHL defenseman. And if you've got him in there, slotted in your number 4 spot, number 5 spot, that's a pretty good place for him.
Well, there's a reason why Victor Hedman is so rare, why these top defensemen in the league are so rare that you can... Even Victor Hedman wasn't a stud when he first started, but like getting a guy who can step in and be a top defenseman right off the bat is so rare. And there's a reason why the teams that have those defensemen are successful every single year. But I think Timothy Liljegren is an interesting story. It's when you are drafted.
I like that proper pronunciation.
Yeah.
Gord Miller would be proud.
Yeah, I've been taking tips from some people. But when you're a first-round pick for this organization, especially all the years that they sucked, like Luke Schen's the first guy that pops in my brain. You're a high pick and you come in and the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and it's very hard to succeed in that situation if you're not an absolute stud. Like me personally, if I was in that situation, I probably wouldn't succeed right off the bat as well. But it's almost a funny situation because he got drafted, and it was kind of like, I'm pretty sure he dropped in the draft because he had an injury pre-draft, and everyone said that he was a very talented offensive defenseman.
You've got a great memory. Like I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case. And it was almost like the expectation kind of wore off on him, and he was kind of not, I don't know the right word. I don't want to say a joke, but like it was almost just like, oh, Timothy Liljegren, kind of another wasted first round pick. And then the expectations kind of wore off on him. So by the time he showed up and to play for this team, anything positive you got out of him
was good.
It's kind of magnified.
The perception had shifted.
Yeah, like it's just that a lot of like pro sports, expectation is everything in pro sports. And he kind of shifted himself into a situation where, since he was a first round pick, anything that he could bring after all these years of marinating in the AHL was going to be seen in a positive light. So I think that's why. And I also kind of like how he's just a younger guy. He's not slow. Is he super physical? No. Maybe the offense will show up as he was touted when he was drafted. But
you got 2 goals against the Vegas Golden Knights.
There you go. That's a good start. But it's I don't know. It's just he's kind of just put himself in a situation where anything he does positive from now on is kind of gravy for them. It's weird. Expectation in this city especially is everything. It's everything, especially for first round picks.
He was a really welcome addition given the current state of their defense corps.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I tip my hat to him. I watched him first game back. He's out there against the Boston Bruins on Hockey Night in Canada, and he played pretty well for a guy who's been sidelined with an injury.
Well, I think the Colorado Avalanche they've just debunked like the big, tough, physical defenseman style of play. Like you just need good, athletic, puck moving guys who can skate and play offense and defense. That's kind of where like Cale Makar is the perfect example of that. Like even Roman Josi, that guy gets a ton of points every single year. It's not about the Chris Prongers anymore. It's about guys who can play on both ends of the ice and skate. Like that's what your defensemen need to be like now.
So Ilya Samsonov gets hurt. It looked like it was on the penalty shot from Brad Marchand.
Yeah. I think everybody saw this coming at some point. Like they picked up 2 goalies who are injury prone.
The good news is it seems like Samsonov is going to be like week to week.
Yeah, but he's still injured. He's still injured.
And goalies are you ever full? Once you get injured as a goaltender, during the season, do you ever fully make it back to 100%? I don't think so.
When is the last time this team had a goalie who played a full season? Like Freddie Anderson got injured once a year every year.
This speaks to like the conversation of where goaltending is going in the league. It's like there are, how many elite goaltenders would you say are in the NHL right now? 3?
I'd say
4?
like 5 max.
5 max. So the rest of the league kind of looks around and says, if you can play like a structured enough game, you don't need an elite guy back there.
No, again, the Colorado Avalanche also debunked that theory as well.
The Leafs, when they play well, can win games with Eric Shalgren.
They did last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won. Yeah. They came back to beat the Hurricanes and took the Golden Knights to overtime.
And I thought he played well enough against Vegas to do that.
Yes. So it's just, I was kind of more coming at it from the standpoint of, it's just so Leafy. Like you go and get these 2 guys.
It's lame, man. It's not cool. Just
what do you think
guys
it is?
On the shelf already.
What do you think it is?
He got deked so bad by Brad Marchand that he got injured.
He like popped his knee.
Kind of embarrassing in a way. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty.
I don't know if it was so much as Marchand like deking him out as it was he bit so hard.
Yeah. I mean, he's ahead of Matt Murray in my books. At least this guy played a couple games and he's got a 920 save and he's been pretty damn good so far. Matt Murray's that guy's got to answer the bell.
Well,
the guy played less than average hockey game this year, and he was on the shelf.
Well, it's also so funny to me how last week Sheldon Keefe is like, oh, Murray's progressing, but he's still a few weeks away. And then Samsonov gets hurt, and it's like, well, you know what? Matt Murray's out skating, out doing the morning. It's you can't believe anything. And I get it's a competitive advantage to not sharing your injury status. Well, I understand that. But it's just like, I was kind of like, okay, well, what a miracle. Matt Murray's back out skating around after that.
Yeah, it's really, really lame how they're both injured already.
I get your point. Like, as a Leaf fan, like, I'm so tired of this. Like, I'm so tired of like, oh.
Yeah, Jack Campbell was hurt last year. Peter Mrazek was hurt last year. Freddie Anderson always had a stint on the IR every single year. It's at some point your goaltending depth has to show through. Like, you remember Michael Hutchinson playing all those games and Johnny Enroth stepping in and
Johnny Enroth.
Yeah, like you remember that. It happens, but it's just it's too early in the season to have two goalies on the shelf already. They're signing some guy that no one's ever heard of.
Keith Petrozelli. What are you talking about? He's a
to be the backup. It's not even them two. It's the whole organization's injured. It's like what's going on here? Why is every goalie injured in our organization?
Joseph Woll's injured.
Where we have to sign some random dude to sit on the bench.
Hey,
good for him though.
Don't you talk that way about Keith Petrozelli?
Yeah, good for him. I'm happy for him. I hope he sees some action at some point, but not fun.
You know what's been a really interesting sort of thing for me as we watch, particularly as you watch Mitch Marner play as well as he did against the Vegas Golden Knights. It's, I think sometimes we look at these guys and we think, you're a professional athlete, okay? You get paid millions of dollars. And the real greats, like a Sidney Crosby. I always come back to Sid when I have this.
He's the GOAT. He's the best. 3 cups. Done it all.
The real greats seem to always be able to power through. But you learn when you watch a Mitch Marner, even a Matthews until he started getting going recently. They're the exception, not the rule. I'm talking about like Crosby, like all the all-time greats. Just because you can see that Mitch Marner is having confidence issues, and you can see, and I have a hard time. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're Mitch Marner. You're a professional. Like you're one of the, when you're one of the most dynamic hockey players in the league.
Yeah.
Like, how can you have a confidence issue? Like, just, so what? You had a bad game, put it behind you, go out there. And I think it's just, this kind of comes back to the point I'm making earlier about how, like, I don't think the media and fans are that bad, but I do think when the temperature rises, these guys feel it, and all it takes is a game like I watched them play against Vegas, and I'm like, this is a turning point game for Mitch Marner. This, like, he's really, the last few games is that they're 5-2-3 in their last 10. Even the last few games, like, I think Nylander and Tavares have been playing with a chip on their shoulder. Both of those guys look fantastic. I think Matthews is getting going again and looking like his old Matthews self, but I still was waiting for Marner to kind of take that next step. And I thought against Vegas, he did that. And I hope that he's able to carry that over and carry that through, because come on, man. Like, you're Mitch Marner.
Well, it's obvious when he has confidence issues, because every fantastic play he makes on the ice requires confidence.
Yes.
So I said on the last podcast, or the podcast before that I just don't see him making any plays. And the plays that he makes, a normal hockey player cannot make that play. It's made from confidence and ability. So when he's not making any of those plays, there's clearly something going on, because since day one of him stepping onto this team, what he's been the best at is just making these ridiculous plays when he doesn't have a lot of space, when he has speed, these quick decisions that not a lot of dudes can make. And when he's not making those plays, it's like, okay, well then Mitch Marner is basically useless if he's not doing that. Like, it's just, he looks like a completely different hockey player. That's what he's best at. And I think that's what makes it so obvious. And the whole Keefe and the whole benching thing, that was kind of weird too. But he's making plays because he's confident. So that's why it's so obvious when he's not confident, because it's he's not doing anything. Mitch Marner not doing anything is really awful to watch. It's boring.
It's a lot of
'Cause he's a very exciting hockey player.
It's a lot of skating around in circles.
Yeah, or giving the puck away, or being weak along the boards. Like it's
and when he is playing well, he always has the puck or he's always around it.
yeah, and he makes these just he's in the top 5 of dudes who can just make a split decision in a tough area. Like just a ridiculous pass. And sometimes it kind of bites him in his ass because sometimes he'll try to make a pass when he should shoot the puck. But
his goal tonight, against Vegas, I'm kind of like, see what happens when you decide to rifle it.
Yeah,
like when you bear down,
the puck.
Yeah, when you bear down and decide to rifle it, it's like
that was a weird play too, because I could see him kind of making that weird, awkward, like tiny one-timer to Tavares, but he just didn't. He actually shot the puck.
Yeah, he's a little like.
Yeah, like I actually thought he was going to throw a little tiny one-timer over to Johnny, and that was just right in the shin pads, guaranteed.
I know I want to come back to what we started the episode with, because I know that yes, there was a lot of like high blood pressure, a lot of anger a few weeks ago. But thus far, I think it was the first episode we did after the season officially started, and you said this is the same team I watched last year. And that still rings true in the sense that like against teams that they are on paper, that they're better than on paper, they haven't really played that well. But then you get them in a game where they were clearly up for the game on Saturday against Boston.
Yeah, and then I've been pretty on point this year because I called that too. I said they're going to go and play that team well because that's just how weird this hockey team is.
So do you think that there's something to that? Like
yes.
I know if you look at like the results, like there's a pattern, but do you think these guys as a team have a difficult time getting up to play the Arizona Coyotes?
Yes. And there's another team in this city that does the exact same thing, and they're the Toronto Blue Jays. They do the same thing. It's just something about going to play a team that everybody says you should beat that just screws with your head.
Do you think they believe, like, do you think they come to the rink?
Yeah, I don't think they come to the rink like,
we're going to dog walk this
walking
team?
in like McGregor and being like, we're going to absolutely destroy this hockey team. But there is something to people talking, not just the media, but the boys talk in the dressing room. They look at the schedule, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they look at a couple upcoming games against teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. And in your head, you're like, this is an L for us. And you're looking ahead to that Boston game or that Tampa game. And you're going to play the Coyotes and you're just, we should beat this hockey team. And then you just don't show up, and you realize that the NHL, even though there's better teams, there's worse teams, there is parity in the league, and any team can beat any team at any night. And if you don't show up against even the worst teams in this league, you're going to lose.
When you put it that way and phrase it that way, it actually does make sense to me. I'm kind of like, okay, like you know what? Like if I was in their position, I might think and behave the same way.
Fans think the same way too. And that's what drives the whole thing almost. I don't think these guys are driving to the rink listening to 590. Maybe some of them are, but there is something to just the whole general buzz around them playing an awful, like the Sens, or just like a crappy team in this league that they should get a dub just by showing up. And I think that kind of just it's not front and center, but it gets in there somewhere. It has to.
The only thing that I think that they need to be cognizant of is you're costing yourself points, which is going to hurt your seeding at the end of the season, and you're going to end up in a first-round matchup against some team.
That's inevitable. It's inevitable with this team. They're not getting a favorable matchup. It's not happening. And even if they do, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Case in point, Montreal Canadiens. It does not matter. Whatever team they play in the first round, it is going 7 games. Well, I promise you.
And you could
Buffalo,
look at
Detroit, Boston, Tampa Bay,
Florida,
any of the other Metro teams that you may see in a wild card, even though I don't think they're going to win the division. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I mean, and one could make the argument that it suits them better to have a matchup against a tougher team.
They've proved it against everything. They should have beat Columbus. They were better than them. They should have beat Montreal. They were better than them. Tampa had the edge. It was nice little effort. Couldn't do it. Boston kind of like, it's just, it doesn't matter. I'm just tired of seeing those efforts against awful teams in the regular season. But I think at the end of the day, that's what this team is, and it leads right into the first round. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're going to play to that team's level in a sense, and it just, I don't know. Again, goes back to them being the same team. Like, what's really different? It's nice seeing them go on a run, but they're still the same hockey team.
So, as we said earlier, 7 of 8 points, 4 games. What is the one thing through these 4 games that you feel the best about? Like you're feeling good about, or you're feeling better about after watching them take 7 of 8.
That you might have stumped me on this one. I think overall the biggest positive this season has been the play in the net, no matter who's in there. Like Samsonov and Eric Källgren, even though Källgren looks very un-NHL goalie-like sometimes. But I just think that this far into the season, we haven't had a podcast centered around goaltending. There's 2 goalies.
Oh my God.
Dude,
every episode last year was centered around goaltending.
Their 2 top goalies are hurt right now. Eric Källgren's played 2 games in a row, and
Keith Petrozelli's sitting on the bench.
They lose to Vegas in overtime, and the main story isn't Eric Källgren. Like that's a bit, anytime you can avoid the goaltending conversation in the city. Oh,
it's fantastic.
I will
our whole season last year.
Every time.
Our whole season last year.
They could have won. They could have beat Vegas with Källgren in the net. They had a chance to win that game. Yep. Instead, something happened on a power play. They gave up a shorthanded goal, and the 3-on-3 is a coin flip.
The Vegas game was old school Leaf run and gun.
Yeah.
Riverboat hockey.
Odd man rushes.
Yeah. Riverboat hockey.
I need 4 hands to count how many odd man rushes.
It's super entertaining to watch. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup playing that way, but it's super entertaining to watch.
That's what I feel best about. I love the performance of some of the players, John Tavares especially, but I don't know, man. The fact that we haven't had a conversation about goaltending yet. That's a positive to me.
For me, it's got to be number 88, man. Like I can't remember the last time I was so blown away by the change in a hockey player. Anyone who's listening to our show knows about the history and drama of William Nylander as a Toronto Maple Leaf. My co-host here was at one point the chief of I want to get William Nylander out of this city
since day one of this podcast.
Yeah.
Was it 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
4 years ago. And I was always kind of like, he is what he is. Everybody's expectations for him are too high. He's a Phil Kessel. Like, that was always how I kind of looked at him. But man, like you said it, he looks 3 feet taller,
bigger, faster, stronger.
Every single time he's on the ice, he's doing something.
Yeah, he's extreme. There's no sleepy Nylander this season.
The best point you have made since we started this current season of this podcast, the best point you have made. I've been hearing a lot of talk in the last few weeks about John Tavares, or the last week in particular about John Tavares and how well he's playing and how good he looks. And he totally deserves it. Johnny's been really good. But my favorite point you made is when we brought this up, whether it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where I said, oh man, Johnny, like, this is sort of a comeback year for Johnny. And you said, I think, yes, he's playing well, but I think he's also been a beneficiary of how, like, William Nylander's complete. How would you even describe it?
I just think he dominates the puck during a shift. Like, he's just all over the puck. And then John doesn't have to worry about streaking through the neutral zone, because every analytical person has been saying this guy's zone entries are GOAT. And I just kind of maybe overlooked it because he would be sleepy Nylander. But this year, this guy is the GOAT of zone entries. He has the puck and he's getting in the zone. And he's not doing that curl at the blue line anymore either every time he gets in there. And it's just, it makes everybody look better. And he's been their best player, shift to shift, effort, every single game. 88. I've ripped this guy. Ripped him. Just tore him to shreds. I wanted him gone. I thought he was useless.
Yep.
Called him a piece of garb.
Yeah, you were.
I hated it. How many bums of the week did this guy?
We could go back. You could go back
to the first episode of this podcast. Even though I urge you not to listen to that because it's not.
It's not good. It's not good.
I mean, it's kind of like nice in a way, but it's
not, it's a good memory. But
yeah, not great.
Our production and audio has come a long way since then.
But just date back to that episode. I've been ripping this guy for years, but dude, he looks like he was just rebuilt in a factory in the off season.
Again, I went on my rant earlier in the episode about confidence. Guys' confidence is through the roof. So I want to end on this note, just because you and I, you know what, we're humble, and we will come on here and say when we're wrong. We did that. We've done that already a few times this year on this podcast, but we will also come on here and we'll kind of pat our chests when we're right about something. And you said a few minutes ago that you're really enjoying that we're only a few weeks into this season and we haven't talked about goaltending.
Yeah. Yes.
I think if a certain someone was still in the net for the Toronto Maple Leafs, we would be talking about goaltending every single week.
Absolutely.
And we spent the off season listening to a bunch of Edmonton Oilers fans tell us that they just picked up Marty Brodeur in his prime to take over goaltending. And we all said as Leaf fans, Cujo and 01.
Yeah.
And we all said as Leaf fans, I don't know about that. It kind of seems like you overpaid for a mediocre goalie. And
you're damn right
we're only a month or so into the season, and Jack Campbell
getting absolutely lambasted in Edmonton right now, which is funny because they say all that matters is a dub, and he's 5-2 on the season, but the guy's sporting a .874 and almost 4.5 goals against.
Well, I mean, the thing about Edmonton.
You want to talk about a goalie graveyard?
Edmonton.
Head over to Alberta.
Yeah. Edmonton, Alberta.
Right to Edmonton.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't say that about Calgary.
That is a goalie graveyard, man.
Yeah.
It was stupid. Like that.
Yeah.
It's all about, like, I have all the respect in the world for Kenny Holland. Like, guy built an absolute dynasty or kept a dynasty going in Detroit. But what are you doing?
Yeah,
I
think. Listen,
what was
think
that?
I think. Well, as we experienced as Leaf fans in the off season, I think the goalie market was not exactly robust. Therefore, Edmonton, because what you just said is a goalie graveyard, saw a guy like Jack Campbell and jumped at the opportunity to sign him.
It's just locking yourself in for 5 years of a guy who's never played a full season in this league.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's great. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Oh,
it is.
I am enjoying it. I don't hate Jack Campbell as a person or a player. Like, I'm sure he's a very nice guy in real life. It's just seeing the Edmonton Oilers get so excited over Leafs sloppy seconds and him just being.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what.
It's hilarious.
I tell you what. He keeps going. If he hurry back from your injury, Ilya Samsonov, because you got a nice fat contract that Kenny Holland's gonna shoot your way in the offseason.
Yeah, he'll be gone.
Yeah,
he'll be gone.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right.
Story of this franchise. You have a decent player making not a lot of money. Contract expires.
See you later.
Goodbye.
But I mean, he got a nice goal. I saw it the other day, Ilya Mikheyev, but he's another guy that I think, you were telling me during when we were hanging out earlier that, you were hearing some Vancouver media say, in hindsight, that wasn't the best.
Yeah, the AAV is kind of not looking too saucy right now.
And this is what I mean when I talk about people who want to rush to fire Kyle Dubas. Like, do I love every decision Kyle Dubas has ever made? Absolutely not. Do I think would I like the Leafs as our overall team to have a little bit more edge to them? Yes, I would. However, Kyle Dubas has made a lot of smart long-term decisions for this franchise. They're not saddled with any brutal contracts. Like, I know in the past we've kind of looked at Tavares' cap hit and said that's not necessarily ideal, but that is a hindsight 2020 take, as you and I always go out of our way to point out. And I just think, like, you see like Kenny Holland handing out a 5-year deal to Jack Campbell, and it's just like, who? Like,
the Leafs don't have the ability to sign these guys to these deals because of all the guys eating the cap space. Like,
which on the one hand, it's like, okay, you wish that they had kind of a higher paid second liner that you could put on the left side, but they also don't have any. Like, if you look down the list at their contracts, there isn't one contract that like that you go, like not or one that isn't, like, maybe Matt Murray.
When I look at the Ilya Mikheyev signing, to me, like, Jimmy Rutherford is a beauty, and he has 3 cups, and he's done a lot in this league. But just sometimes I feel like the GMs in this league, they're impatient with maybe the most important thing in hockey, which is cap space. And it's just, why did you have to go sign a third liner, at best second liner, to that contract instead of kind of just biting the bullet and seeing what you had in your organization and keeping that cap space for potentially re-signing a guy or somehow getting a guy that is going to be more valuable to you than Ilya Mikheyev? Like, why did you go out and spend that right away on a guy who's really only been a third liner in the league? It's just, I feel like cap space is just, it's almost more important than having a good player at this point. Like, it's,
if you go down the list at their contracts, like, there isn't one that jumps out at you. Like,
no, they're just a little tied up on the blue line. Like, they have Riley at
7.5.
7.5. They have Brody at 5.5. They have Muzzin, even though he's an LTIR. They have him around 5. They got Kerfoot at 3 something. It's just like they have a couple players on the back end who are making a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Like, and then all the big boys.
But none of them that, like, I don't know if the Riley extension's going to age well. Like, how good of a player is Morgan Riley going to be in 2027 at $7.5 million? But, like, there's none of these that you're like, oh my God, how are they ever going to get out from under that?
Yeah.
Like, even Tavares only has 2 more years left on his deal after this.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, let's just.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Think about that.
Time flies.
All right. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah, we're a little overstayed our welcome.
We did overstate our welcome.
Jimmy Rutherford conversation.
Well, it's an interesting conversation. The Jack Campbell thing is really, and again, no disrespect to Jack Campbell, who's a perfectly lovely dude, but it's just
seeing Oilers fans just take it is the best. Yeah. I don't care if it's rational or not. I just like seeing Oilers fans cry.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing better.
It's goat. It's the best.
Better. All right, we're going to be back a little later on this week, so make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Like this video, subscribe to our channel. Spread the word.
Tell your friends.
We really, really appreciate it. Also, do the same thing if you're listening to the audio version. Leave a little 5-star review, little comment. Every little bit helps. What's up to all of our new subscribers? Keep the comments coming, too. We love, honestly, that's my favorite part every week, is reading the comments. We get so many, like, really nice comments. Thank you for those. We also get a bunch of people who love to rip us and call us idiots. We also love every comment. There's no such publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity, Ryan. So if you want to, okay.
Not in the comments section.
No, yeah, not in the comments section. Yeah. That's right. But so if you want to sign on to our video and rip us and call us morons, go right ahead. We love every second of it. We'll see you guys next time.